Okay, forget Air Force One for a second. Imagine, if you will, a custom-built, heavily armed, rolling fortress. It's a grueling 2-day, 1,000-kilometer journey from Pyongyang all the way to Russia's Vostochny Cosmodrome. Honestly, it sounds exactly like the plot of a spy thriller, right? You've got extreme paranoia, absolutely bizarre luxury, and incredibly high-stakes global politics. But this isn't a movie. This is the very real, very intense way North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong Un, travels.
Okay, let's dive into this. 60 kilometers per hour. That is the absolute maximum speed of this terrifying moving fortress. And frankly, a lot of times it goes even slower than that. Why so slow? Well, mainly for two reasons. First off, North Korea's railways are in notoriously poor condition. But more importantly, this train is weighed down by an absolutely staggering amount of heavy armor and weaponry.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at the Taeyong-ho, spectacle, security, and geopolitics. So, what do you even name a fortress on wheels? They call it the Taeyong-ho, which fittingly translates to sun. Now, there is a really deep irony here that we have to talk about. The train has become a massive symbol for North Korea, supposedly used to make Kim Jong Un appear, down to earth, modest, and super close to his people. Think about the stark contrast for a second. A US president projects power by soaring through the skies in a massive high-tech jumbo jet, right? The North Korean leader projects power by slowly rumbling across the earth. But as you're about to see, there is absolutely nothing modest about how this whole operation works.
Because we're not just talking about a single train here. It's actually a virtually impenetrable 3-train convoy. First, a scout train drives ahead to sweep the tracks for planted explosives or potential ambushes. Then comes the Taeyong-ho itself. And finally, a 3rd train secures the rear. And it is completely packed full of heavily armed security personnel who are ready to rush in if things go south. And get this, that's just on the ground. A helicopter is constantly scouting the airspace ahead. And while they're traveling through North Korean territory, cargo planes station extra personnel at the closest airports along the entire route.
The truly crazy part is that the Taeyong-ho isn't just designed to survive an attack, it's literally equipped to fight a small war. The walls and undercarriage are heavily hardened to withstand direct explosions, and the windows are all reinforced bulletproof glass. But look at these offensive capabilities. Multiple compartments hold heavy weaponry. We are talking anti-aircraft missiles to fight threats from above, anti-tank missiles, and heavy machine guns to aggressively fend off ambushes from either side of the tracks. And if, somehow, all of these massive defenses actually fail, the train carries a fully functional escape helicopter right on board so Kim can just fly away.
And the level of supreme, absolute control doesn't stop at the train's armor. There are literally 20 private railway stations built across the country solely for the use of this one specific train. Plus, to ensure total security and a perfectly clear path, whenever the Taeyong-ho passes by a station, the power is completely cut off on all other surrounding tracks. Literally nothing else moves.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complete, almost whiplash-inducing shock when you contrast the outside with the inside. On the exterior, you've got this terrifying, slow-moving block of hardened steel bristling with anti-aircraft missiles. But you step inside and you leave that militarized zone for something completely eclectic, almost whimsical. We're talking pristine white rooms, shiny wooden floors, and yes, decorated with hot pink sofas and flower-shaped lamps. The luxury inside is just staggering. You'll find ivory and turquoise curtains right next to zebra-patterned fabric seats. But the real highlight has to be the onboard restaurant. Kim's personal chefs prepare delicacies spanning French, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean cuisines. And to make sure the Supreme Leader is never, ever bored during these multi-day 60-kilometer-per-hour crawls, the train actually carries a troupe of live singers to serenade him. It's also a fully functional mobile command center for running the country, featuring a complete office with a desk, satellite phones, fax machines, and a giant map of China and the Korean peninsula. Oh, and when he finally arrives at his destination, 2 heavily armored Mercedes limousines are literally unloaded directly off the train for the final mile.
Section 1. A history of paranoia.
So, why all this extreme, almost theatrical security? Well, this isn't just modern-day posturing. It is deeply rooted in the Kim family's history and some very real paranoia. See, train travel is practically a sacred tradition for the Kims. At the Kumsan Palace, where Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are laid to rest, there are actually life-size models of their personal train carriages. It all started as a safety precaution, especially because Kim Jong-il reportedly developed a really severe fear of flying. That phobia led to his completely epic 2001 journey to Moscow. It was a staggering 20,000-kilometer round trip that took nearly a month.
A Russian official named Konstantin Pulikovsky accompanied him and actually published a book about it later, which deeply irritated both governments. Why? Because for decades, these trains were meant to be shrouded in absolute, utter mystery.
But look, the paranoia, it isn't entirely unjustified, as this tragic number perfectly shows. In 2004, Kim Jong Il's train passed through the Ryongchan station, right near the Chinese border. Just hours later, a massive explosion ripped through that very same station, killing roughly 160 people and injuring 1,300 more. Now, the official state story is that a parked train loaded with oils and chemicals accidentally hit overhead power lines. However, there's widespread speculation that this was actually a completely botched assassination attempt, which really highlights the very real, very dangerous internal power struggles within North Korea.
As you'd expect, after that 2004 explosion, the already insanely tight security around the train went completely into overdrive. The movements of the train became ultimate top state secrets. During a 2009 trip to meet then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, Russian photographers were strictly banned from taking any pictures of it whatsoever. The paranoia reached such extreme heights that entire Siberian villages along the train's route were literally ordered to stay indoors until the train had completely passed. Of course, fast forward to today's era of smartphones, and keeping a giant, slow-moving green train totally secret is virtually impossible. So the regime has kind of pivoted, and now they lean heavily into using it as a massive propaganda tool. Section 2. Destination Russia. The geopolitical pivot.
Because today, the Taeyang-ho is no longer just a bizarre historical quirk. It is actively shaping current global events. After 2 very long days of traveling, Kim's train arrived at its highly anticipated destination, the Vostochny Cosmodrome spaceport in Russia. He was greeted right there by Vladimir Putin with what honestly looked like one of the longest, most visibly uncomfortable handshakes in recent diplomatic history. From there, Putin gave him the ultimate VIP military tour, taking him through the advanced spaceport, a fighter aircraft factory, and showing off the formidable Russian Pacific Fleet.
And this brilliantly illustrates the completely bizarre duality of North Korean diplomacy. On one hand, you have pure, unfiltered spectacle, vodka toasts, classical ballet performance, and I am completely serious here, a walrus show. But behind closed doors, while the cameras were off, these 2 heavily sanctioned leaders were engaged in high-stakes negotiations that directly impact the ongoing devastating war in Ukraine. Because here is the core reason for this entire meeting. It's a massive transaction born out of pure mutual necessity. Russia, deeply engaged in a protracted war, is running extremely low on ammunition and international allies. North Korea, on the other hand, has enormous stockpiles of older Soviet-style ammunition and military equipment, and they are more than willing to supply it. In return, North Korea is desperately seeking advanced technical support from Russia to develop spy satellites, along with crucial missile technology for its ever-expanding nuclear programs.
Now, neither country officially announced a treaty or any firm outcome from the negotiations, or the walrus show for that matter, but their actions absolutely speak for themselves. According to reports from the US government, shortly after this exact train journey, North Korea successfully delivered over 1,000 containers of ammunition and military equipment to Russia to support their war effort. And the diplomatic ties? They've only gotten stronger since. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov later visited Pyongyang specifically to thank North Korea for its support in the Ukraine conflict. In turn, North Korea took the extremely rare step of officially recognizing territories captured by Russia as sovereign Russian territory. You know, Western leaders taking trains into Kyiv has been dubbed iron diplomacy, but Kim's train journey represents a much, much darker version of that. So why does this matter to us? Because the strategic alignment of these 2 highly isolated, nuclear-capable nations directly shifts the entire balance of global security. The Taeyang-ho is meant to project incredible strength, but honestly, having to take a multi-day slow-motion train ride just because you have practically no allies and very limited safe airspace, ultimately, it really just highlights their profound and growing isolation from the rest of the world.
Which leaves us with this final, massive question. Following their meeting, Vladimir Putin formally accepted an invitation to visit Kim Jong Un in North Korea in return. As these 2 isolated nations draw closer and closer together to bypass global sanctions, how exactly will the Russian leader choose to travel into the highly secretive state? Will Putin take to the skies, or will he soon be navigating those very same tracks in his own armored ghost train?